Ownership structure is key here. You're going to buy your build for rent property in one of a couple of ways. You buy it, right? You're funding it all cash, and maybe it's a small property, a house or a duplex, right? That's the easiest. You answer to you're all cash. This begins to get more complicated as we go increase in project size. We go to 20, 30, 40 units. Guess what? You're answering to lots of people now. Number one, you're answering to the bank. You need to get those leases in the books so that you can get your final refinance done, because build for rent typically involves a construction loan, which is not a long-term loan. So you got to get those leases going. So you're kind of shooting for that too. Like, hey, I got to work with my property manager to get me leased up so that I can get my final refinance done. Walk that line between getting those done and sacrificing possibly higher rents, at least in the short term. Now, that also begs the question of, well, what's your ownership structure? Is it just you? Are you selling these units to other investors? Are you a syndication? Do you report to a large group of investors that you answer to? Because that manager, they're going to be the one that delivers the goods. And if they're not getting units leased, you have to get out ahead of that in advance and provide a solution, because nobody wants to be hearing about how units aren't renting or we're having to take big cuts. Involve that manager from the very beginning so that you're working in sync with them, whether you answer to your own bank account or the bank account of your investors in a syndicate. This is probably where the rubber meets the road the most, right? And many of these other issues, we had some bad construction. Well, we can fix that, right? Well, we had maybe the area that we invested in isn't super great. That's harder to fix, but usually lowering rents is going to deal with that and tell the tale. Incompetent property management, got to go.
Yeah. I say just do your homework. Yeah. And maybe even ask them, what are some of the properties you manage? Go drive by some of those properties that they already manage, so you can kind of see, what does that look like? I mean, some of that may be that the tenant's taking care of the exterior or the yard or whatever, but kind of give you a good idea. Some of them may even give you a referral or two of some of the investors that they're currently managed for, and you can chat with them and see what their thoughts are. Sometimes people are a little more open with you.
Well, you can also look at reviews of properties that they manage. And I would do that with a grain of salt, right? Tenants complain. They're going to complain no matter what. But it's the nature, right? The frequency of those complaints. You can read between the lines. If it's, they wouldn't give me my security deposit back. I'm not so sure that's a bad thing. It might be the property manager holding somebody's feet to the fire. But if there's 100 people and they never answer the phone, right? That might tell you something. Right. So all good things to keep in mind.
Interview a property manager.
Or a couple.
Yeah. Do an interview with a couple of them. Have a list of 20, 40, 50. I've seen some investors or groups that have a list of 80 questions that they ask a property manager, or several of them, to interview them. See if they meet your criteria.
Well, we'll have to do an episode on that, on some of the key questions to ask a property manager.
We have a whole list of them for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sherida, what do you think about, we're talking about property managers, but when we're building a new unit up and out of the ground, how does it apply? What would you look for?
Somebody that has good marketing, because obviously you want to get those units out to tenants, possible tenants. So somebody that's going to market, somebody that's a go-getter, somebody that's not afraid of rents. Obviously, if you're bringing a lot of inventory on, we had talked about in an earlier episode that your rents you may want to offer some kind of an incentive at the very beginning, because you're bringing 50 doors on, right? But if you have that set with the property manager ahead of time, I think that's key. But then for them to know when they can bump that rent up and when they can't, to kind of play that game, let it ebb and flow. So, I think you're going to want somebody that's a little bit aggressive, has good marketing skills, and then can communicate with you. Because I think, again, we've talked about this. Bad news is better than no news. So as long as they're telling you something, right? Even if it's not that your unit's leased, but they got some other leases in the project, if you're in a whole project, or maybe they only got you one lease this month and you were planning on 2 or 3, some communication, just keeping people informed, I think
probably
is helpful.
Proactive communication of, hey, this problem happened and this is what we're doing.